Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Authentic Cultural Tourism Experiences with the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada. This webinar will be presented by Jason Picard-Binet, Sales Manager with the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada. I'm your host, Dan McDonald, Sales and Marketing Development Associate with Baxter Media, and today is Wednesday, March 9th. So just before I get into things, I'd like to let our viewers know that at the end of this webinar, you will have a chance to ask questions to Jason. To do so, just type them into the Q&A section of the public chat box, which will be towards the right-hand side of your screen, and those questions will be answered in due time. Be sure to attend the full duration of today's webinar for your chance to be eligible for prizing. Anyone that joins late or leaves early will not be eligible. And remember, this is a live session, so your patience is appreciated during any technical difficulties that might arise. I will now hand things over to Jason Picard-Binet. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks everyone for being here. Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you're based in Canada. So my name is Jason Picard. I'm the sales manager for the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada, also known as ITAC. I'm currently talking to you from Treaty 7, the home of the Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, Blood, and Cree people, also known as Calgary. As ITAC is actually rolling as a National Indigenous Tourism Conference, but as you can hear, I'm originally from Quebec, from the Huron-Wendat community, a little bit closer to the old Quebec City. So thank you for being here. What is ITAC? We're the national organization in charge of developing, leading, partnering, and selling Indigenous tourism experience across the country. We have over 1,900 members across Canada. Obviously, I won't go through all of them today, but I will pinpoint some of our leading members. And I would start the presentation with a little video that we've done last year. Very well done by a Cree producer based in Vancouver. So let's roll the video.
About sacredness, it's all about paradise. It's all about coming together as one and sharing what you know.
We want people to see our culture. We want people to understand who we are.
From coast to coast, there's so many different Indigenous people, and they really have their own stories to tell.
There's so many different elements that draw you to Indigenous tourism.
It's a culture that more people need to know.
Now is the time to celebrate our connection to this beautiful, vast country.
It's pretty incredible.
It's like the real, true Canadian experience.
I consider myself a protector of this area. We as First Nations people, have that connection with all wildlife.
We're from this land. We're not just a company bringing guests out into our territory. It's deeper for us. We're going after orcas and humpback whales, sea lions, grizzly bears, black bears, wolves. This is the ultimate Canadian safari.
Traveling by canoe, there's no better symbol of responsible ecotourism.
It's a vehicle of getting around, but it's much more than that.
You are connecting with the land, the people that you're traveling with. You get to experience things that you would not experience anywhere else.
When you're shooting archery, to me it's more than a sport, it's almost an art. It really teaches us to be present, and that's a hard thing nowadays.
It's a good way to get everybody involved and learn a little bit about the Indigenous people and our ancestors and how we become one with Mother Earth.
If you want to learn anything about a people, you have to learn their food. True traditional Native cuisine is just eating off the land.
To me, this is Indigenous. It's like I'm honoring my grandmother, like how she cooked. I want the guests to see how the food's prepared firsthand. Experiences like this are very unique and the most genuine. There's just I put so much good energy into it, and I just want the world to see it.
I think quite often with Indigenous culture in general, people lump us into one big group. But there's so much variety and so many wonderful flavors from the land and from the sea that we bring to the table. I think it's a small but significant food movement.
I made Montreal history. I'm the only Indigenous restaurant owner in the island of Montreal. And you know what? It took an Indigenous woman to make it happen. And I'm very proud.
More and more people are looking to experience culture in all its forms.
There's so many beautiful parts, you know, the beading, the singing, the dancing, the stories, the legends, the language itself.
There's so much a person can learn. I can talk to you about ceremonies, I can talk to you about the powwows and meditation, vision quests, and so much, you know.
For a long time, the government had outlawed the practice of Indigenous culture, Indigenous language.
When we talk about reconciliation in Canada, Indigenous tourism opens up a platform to bridge that gap together.
I kind of look at it as a responsibility now. Instead of like starting a business just for the sake of starting a business. It's my responsibility to create space for other Indigenous people. This is really emotional.
It's allowing us to build confidence. It's allowing us to get out into our territories. It's allowing us to find who we are again.
Indigenous tourism is about bringing that culture not only to the rest of Canada, but to the rest of the world.
All right, so I hope you enjoy our little video. So to start, ITAC, the mission is leading, developing, selling, and partnering with non-Indigenous people. So that's kind of the four pillar of our association. And I feel that travel trade partnership fall under two different pillars, which is the marketing and also the development. Why the development? Because most of our members are, you know, small and medium operators that, you know, it's a mom and pop shop. They are kind of doing everything at the same time. So we are asking for patience and also we are asking for time with our travel trade partners so that our members can get to know you and can also understand like the whole travel trade distribution channel, and that's really my mission as a sales manager, really helping our members into getting out there, being sold by different travel trade partners. You know, we have very few members that are on GDS and very easily accessible. Like, you know, most of them are carrying net rates or even, you know, they're taking bookings on spreadsheet. But once you get there, once you take the time to discover the history of Indigenous people, I think it could be a pretty magical journey for your visitors. The vision is a thriving Indigenous tourism economy, sharing authentic, memorable, and enriching experience. And the word authentic is super important in our industry because we have to know that Indigenous tourism is not a tourism about Indigenous, it's a tourism made by Indigenous. Obviously, we're focusing our effort into more cultural experiences, but we do have all kinds of different Indigenous operators out there, whether it's airlines, whether it's hotels that are not necessarily involved into cultural experience, but it is still Indigenous tourism because what we want to do with our tourism development is to know, you know, bringing jobs in tourism for our communities, creating sort of a circular economy for Indigenous people. And we're the only industry that could help to reconnect with our culture, with our history, with who we are. And that's really important because, you know, when we're looking at the GDP and the stats with other industry, whether it's mining or the wood industry, obviously the tourism is below that. But we have to be proud that we're the only industry that help Indigenous people to reconnect with who they are. And by bringing your clients into those business, you're sort of, you know, helping this effort into getting back our culture and going back to our traditional languages and stuff like that. So you're a very important part of the chain for reconciliation. So I told you we have over 1,900 businesses across the country. Amongst them, it's not all of them that are export ready. And what I mean export ready, I mean, you know, carrying net rates, understanding the travel trade, having online bookings, having a website. So across the country, we have about 200 export ready Indigenous experiences. So I'm gonna do a little trip around the country, and we'll start with the West Coast. We'll start with our B2B tools, because we just rolled out our brand new corporate website a couple of weeks ago. So I'm inviting you to visit indigenoustourism.ca, and we have a whole trade section. So in this trade section, we've created an access for our marketing content. So we're working with Crowdrift, so you guys can download our videos, our photos. You have all the credit, everything. You can also subscribe to our B2B newsletter. So we're not that annoying. We're only sending 4 newsletters a year, but mostly to announce like new businesses, new experience, what's going on with ITAC, upcoming trade show that we will be involved. So very interesting content in there. We also created a B2B private group where many of our members are there sharing the news. So we're inviting also the travel trade partner to join our private business to business group, so you can get like the latest news about different Indigenous tourism businesses within our membership. Also on the website, we have upcoming travel show, fam tour request form. So we're running multiple fam tours across the country each year, except for the last 2 years. But I'm just back from a fam tour here in Calgary, so things are picking up again. Yay! Also, we're offering itinerary ideas and the interactive map. So the interactive map, by the way, is super interesting for you. We have sort of pinpoint all the export-ready experience we have across the country. So whatever itinerary you are developing into Canada, it's quite easy to see who are located, our member, what they're doing, their contact, everything. So let's start with Western Canada. Some of our Indigenous operator leaders. So the first I'd like to talk about is Takaya Tour. They are located in North Vancouver. They're about 30 minutes drive from downtown. They're offering tour for group as well as FIT. They have 2 hours to multi-day activities. It's mostly canoeing tour, but also they're offering trekking experience in the coastal forest. So you have adventure, cultural experience. Also, if you're lucky, you can have wildlife watching experience. So there's a couple of killer whales, bears. So super interesting product, very accessible because it's only 30 minutes drive from downtown Vancouver. Another one, Seawolf Adventure. So Seawolf Adventure is located in Vancouver Island, in the northern part of the island, more specifically in Allard Bay. They're also offering departure from Port Hardy. So they can host FIT, small groups. They have 4 boats, 3 captains. They are all Indigenous, and they are offering half-day or full-day adventure of wildlife watching and Indigenous history of the northern part of Vancouver Island. Really, the wildlife experience up there is absolutely gorgeous. So you have a pretty high chance of seeing whether otter, bears, also killer whales, salmon spawning. So very interesting product in northern part of Vancouver Island. Also, to combine with Seawolf Adventure, one of the interesting product we have would be the Qualila Hotel. So the Qualila is a 85 rooms hotel, all decorated with Indigenous art. It's also art gallery. They have Indigenous inspired food. They're offering numbers of sightseeing experience, Indigenous culture experience. They also have foraging experience experience. Just next to the hotel, they have an oyster farm, so you can go with the indigenous tour guides and pick your own oyster and then bring them back in at the restaurant, and the chef can cook it for you. It's absolutely a gorgeous hotel in Vancouver Island. So we stay in BC. Interior BC has also a lot of Indigenous experiences available. One of them very interesting is Moccasin Trails. So Moccasin Trail is run by two lovely guy, Greg and Frank. They are very dedicated to their cultures, and they want you to experience Kamloops and Kelowna for different Indigenous inspired tours. So you have canoeing experience, trekking experience. They are offering language workshops, ceremonies, and they just developed a new 4 days itinerary. They partnered with different Indigenous communities in the Okanagan Valley, and they can offer you like a 4 days fully Indigenous itinerary, talking about interesting part of our culture, as well as, you know, the dark history of Canada. So speaking about the residential schools, we have to remember that unfortunately the Thompson Okanagan Valley was the first place in Canada we uncovered the remaining of child in residential schools. So it's a good, I think, opportunity to address those hard topics with Indigenous people that are involved into their culture on a day-to-day basis. Also, if we move up north to the Yukon, one of the products we're offering is Who, What, Where Tours. So it's run by the Kluane Nation. It's sort of a small receptive agency for Yukon. Sometimes it's tricky, you know, selling the north. There are small operator out there. We don't necessarily get to know everybody, what they're doing. So this is exactly Who, What, Where Tours is offering. So they can design whether 1 hour or multi-day tours for your client. They own several minivans and minibus. They are offering wildlife watching experience, cultural experience, adventures, trekking. They also have an outfitter run by the same business, so you can have hunting and fishing experience as well up north in Yukon. Northwest Territory, capital of Northern Lights. So another pretty interesting activities or pretty interesting experience we have up north, Aurora Village. So Aurora Village is offering Northern Light watching experience, overnights in teepees. They also created those kind of dome with a glass ceiling and a swivel chair where you can do Northern Light watching and during winter time. Also around the area of Aurora Village, you can do snowmobile renting. They have snowshoes activities. They have also Indigenous workshops, so you can learn how to do your own handcraft medicine bags. You can discover also medicinal plant of the Northwest Territories. So Aurora Village is definitely an interesting product. Very accessible also, because the other one is more adventurous, North Star Adventure. So North Star Adventure is run by a guy, Joe Bailey. Joe is lovely. Again, this guy is really dedicated to his Diné culture. So he's a Aurora hunter. So compared to Aurora Village, where it's a whole village and there's sort of everything in there at the same place, with Joe, you're traveling in Northwest Territories to find like the best place to do the aurora watching, to figure where they will be the most visible. And with him, you can set a traditional camp. You overnight in a traditional camp in the middle of the bush. They are also open year-round. They're offering on summertime more adventure, wildlife watching experience, as well as fishing experience, and obviously on winter time they have those Northern Lights watching packages. And if we stay in Northwest Territories, probably one of my favorite activity up north. It's at the end of the Dempster Highway, so very remote in this little Inuit village of Inuvik. So it's designed for FIT people only, but Tundra North Expeditions is quite something. It figures as one of the Canadian signature experience. So you are going on a snowmobile trip and you're sort of a shepherd for caribou. So leaded by Kailik Kisoon, an indigenous, an Inuit guy up north. So your job is to go on snowmobile and keep the caribou close to the village. So whoever need food for winter, they can travel not so far from the village and hunt the caribou. So it's absolutely unique experience. Also, Kailik is very knowledgeable, so he's offering igloo building. You can overnight in igloos. You will have all kind of cultural activities related to the Inuit. Again, Tundra Expedition, I know it's for a very specific niche market, but if someone is looking for a unique, adventurous experience, I would highly recommend that product. Now, moving into Alberta. So Métis Crossing, I feel Métis Crossing is the next big thing in Alberta. So it's an interpretive center about the history of the Métis people. You have all kind of workshops in there. They have storytelling, they have snowshoe activities on summertime. Also, they are offering canoeing activities. They have different pods where you can do stargazing. Just across the center, also they have over 1,500 bison that has been released and in the field, and where you can do bison watching experience. Also, they have First Nations inspired restaurant, and they just opened a 40 rooms lodge that is absolutely gorgeous. So they are located right at the beginning of the Victoria Trail. So the trail that has been created by the voyager for the fur trading. So the history of Métis Crossing and the history of Métis people of Alberta is absolutely fantastic. Now, moving into the other interesting product we have in Alberta, it would be Mahican Trail. So Mahican Trail is a Korean Iroquois nation inspired experience. They are based in Canmore in the Rockies. They are offering half-day or full-day experience about medicinal walks, so you can do foraging to learn about different medicinal plants in the Rockies. They have handcraft workshops. Also, for the most adventurous one, they have bushcraft and survival workshops. Again, if your clients are, I know the Rockies and especially Banff is super popular with tourism. So it's quite accessible. They have different locations, whether in Canmore or Banff, where they could start the tour. So I would highly recommend, if you want to spice up your itinerary in the Rockies with Indigenous experiences, definitely Mahican Trails is something to look at. Now, moving into the prairies, Wanuskewin Heritage Park, it's absolutely fantastic to learn about the Northern Plains Nations. So they are open for group as well as FIT. They have all kind of different cultural activities, whether it's arts and crafts. They have dance presentations, so they can do a whole workshop about the powwow. They have different tours. Also, Wanuskewin just released new wild buffaloes where they were meant to be. And one of the very interesting thing is the buffalo were introduced in 2019. And last summer, when the buffalo were in the rut, they uncovered on the dirt some artifact that was dated of over 3,000 years ago. It's petroglyphs that was drawn by the Northern Plains nations. So absolutely something to discover in the prairies with Wetaskiwin Heritage Park. So, and by the way, they are very close from Saskatoon. They are about 30 minutes drive. In Manitoba now, Churchill, capital of polar bear. They are offering dog sledding activities, bird watching activities. They are offering like the whole history of the Métis people of Manitoba. The owner there, Dave Daly, is a real passionate about dog sledding. The guy crossed Canada, like Northern Canada, twice with his dogs. So just, you know, having a little 2 or 3 hours dog sled activity with Dave is magical. And then you sit around a fire and you're just listening at his history about all the adventure he's done with his dogs up north in Canada. So very interesting experience to link with the polar bear watching experience up in Churchill. So I will pause here and see if you have any questions about Western Canada, and then we'll move over Eastern Canada. No questions so far. Oh, Sandra's asking if each booking get a separate TP. Actually, yes, you can book your individual TP at Wetaskiwin. They have very few TPs. They have, if my memory is good, about 5 TPs available. But it's definitely something you can book individually for your clients. And it's also an interpretive site, so there's no need to overnight in Wetaskiwin. You can also have just a day tour. Norman is asking if there's a list of experience and how to book. Yeah, if you look on our website, well, we have 2 websites, by the way. So the first one is Destination Indigenous. This is our consumer front website. If you go in there, you have plenty of blog posts as well as an interactive map where you can see all the different experience available across the country. And if you go on our corporate website, which is indgenoustourisim.ca, you have the trade sections where you have all the contacts and all the information about how to book those different experiences.
And Michelle had a question that I was able to answer. She'd asked if this was being recorded. I apologize if this has already been asked. Yeah, that's no problem, Michelle. We are definitely recording this. And the recording of this webinar will be made available on the Baxter Media YouTube channel by tomorrow. So probably by the early afternoon tomorrow Eastern time, around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, Kendra is asking if those TPs are accessible for larger groups. In Wetaskiwin, the maximum they have is 5 TPs, but we also have other product that does offer overnight in TPs, especially also in Eastern Canada. We have a couple of them. And if you want to reach out to me offline, I can send you a list of who's offering, let's say, traditional overnight, whether it's in the longhouse or TPs that are group friendly. I'll be happy to do that. So Sandra is asking how many people can share a TP. Normally it's for a family, so maximum of 5 people. I would say 4 adults, or whether 2 adults and 3 children. What website can we find all the tour company? Wanda's asking. So as I said, indgenoustourisim.ca for the corporate side of things, or Destination Indigenous for our consumer front website. Telma is asking if Wetaskiwin is open year-round. Yes, it is. It's open year-round. Obviously, the TP are not on winter time, but the whole interpretive center is open. The buffalo watching experience is open, and they have also different workshop running year-round. Elena is asking, oh yeah, Aurora Village. I agree with you. It's absolutely amazing experience. All right, Vicky's asking more general questions like during high season, how early do you recommend booking for multi-day trips? It really depends. I mean, it depends of the region. If you're looking for Northern Canada, normally we book those activities about a year in advance. But for Western Canada, for BC or Alberta, normally they have pretty good inventory of product. So it's possible to book it, a couple of months ahead the departures. And we're also working with numbers of receptive agencies that has allotment, whether it's John View or Jack Travel or Discover Holidays. So you can definitely look into their inventory as well. Kendra's asking if the tour can be customized for longer than 4 days. You're asking for Mox Trails. They just released this new tour for that 4 days activities in the Thompson Okanagan. I guess if you have like a quite interesting groups, like let's say a minimum of 12 people, definitely Greg and Frank can customize something longer in the Thompson Okanagan. But that's a very good question. So far, I haven't seen any customized tour from them, but I surely can ask. Oh, yeah. So Stacy, I just answered your questions, but yeah, we're working with numbers of DMCs. So CTI has few of our product. Discover Canada, definitely they have numbers of our experience. John View is a big partner of us as well. Yeah, so we have you can look at all those DMCs. They definitely have our product in there. Elena is asking what's the maximum size of the tour. If you're talking about Moxon Trail, if I'm not wrong, I think it's 20, but I would have to double check with the operators on that. All right, so let's move on to, am I done with the Q&A?
There's still a few more that were submitted to a separate section, so we can either hold those to the end or read them out now. It's up to you.
All right, we'll hold those to the end and just move on to Eastern Canada.
Okay.
All right, now Ontario, one of the interesting product we have in a region that is not very visited by visitors, but definitely something to look at, and it's the northwest of Ontario, so based in northwest of Thunder Bay in Atikokan. We have a product called Voyageur Wilderness Program that is from the Métis people. So they're hosting FIT small groups family. It's an eco-friendly adventure experience where you can do canoeing, trekking, camping, bird watching, fishing. So very outdoorsy experience. Their land is gorgeous. They have numbers of lakes and rivers in the area where you can do canoeing and camping. So definitely a family-friendly product. And again, the owner, Michel Savoy, is very knowledgeable about his Métis background and happy to share his background with our visitors. Now moving on to Quebec. So Quebec, one of the, I would say, most developed Indigenous communities across Canada in terms of cultural tourism is Wendake. So Wendake invested over $50 million into their tourism industry over the last 12 years. So they own a hotel, they own a gorgeous hotel of 55 rooms and suites, a 4-star hotel. It's all riverfront. It's located only 15 minutes drive from downtown. They also own a museum where they have numbers of different tours. They have an interpretive site for family where the guides are dressed in the traditional way and that are telling the history of the Huron-Wendat people. They have an international powwow where they're hosting over 300 dancers from all over Canada, US, and Mexico. They have numbers of handcraft workshop. They have storytelling in a real traditional longhouse. They have canoeing, cycling. So it's sort of, I would say, a cultural resort about the history of Indigenous people. If you're having any clients visiting the old Quebec and Quebec City, that's definitely something not to miss is Wendake. And also Quebec, in more the Arctic part of Quebec, we have the Nunavik Park. So the Inuit people up north in Quebec owns 4 different national parks where they are offering different wildlife watching experience. So whether it's muskox, caribou, polar bear, walrus, you get to know the Inuit cultures. They have different trekking experience. It's a fly-in community, so obviously the access cost is pretty expensive. That's sort of once in a lifetime experience, but definitely to learn about the Inuit cultures, that's an interesting location for Canada. Also in Quebec, another interesting experience would be Espit. So probably most of you are familiar with the Tadoussac, where it's kind of the mecca for whale watching experience. There's over 13 different species of whales in the St. Lawrence River that are gathering during summer. So the chance of seeing whales are pretty high. But to be honest, Tadoussac on July and August can be very crowded. So the advantage of Espit is they are located about 23 kilometers east of Tadoussac. It's more a private individual experience where you can do the whale cruises. They have sea kayak, they have guided sea kayak along St. Lawrence River where you can do the whale watching experience. They have black bear watching experience, and they have numbers of different lodging options, whether it's their Natakam condo, which is 24 fully furnished apartment, all facing the St. Lawrence River, where you can see the whale feeding from your balcony. They have 4 different campgrounds, so for RV renters that are even for families, it's something interesting to look at. They have also Outfitter, where you can rent the cabin during summertime. Especially one that is very close to the community, where they are shutting down all the fishing experience during the month of July and August, and they open the cabin for the families. Now moving to the Maritimes, New Brunswick, Metapanega Heritage Park. Definitely a product to look at to learn about the Mi'kmaq nations. So they have an interpretive centers to learn about the Mi'kmaq culture. They have several trekking along the interpretive center, and also they have a lodge. They have the Red Bank Lodge, and the history of that lodge is absolutely fantastic. This lodge has been built by rich American back then for salmon fishing, and at that time in the 19th century, the indigenous people, the Mi'kmaq people, were forbidden to fish salmon, and only like the rich American were coming to the lodge, and this lodge has been now bought by the Mi'kmaq people, and they are now hosting numbers of visitors in there for cultural activities. They are no longer offering salmon fishing in there. It's really to learn about the Mi'kmaq. So it's interesting to see that, you know, sometimes our dark history and our dark past about the Indigenous relations is kind of moving on, and we're taking back what belongs to Indigenous people, and we're trying to make something positive and something to learn about our history and who we are. Now, Nova Scotia, we also have the Eskasoni Cultural Journeys there. It's more focused on groups and schools. They have cultural activity, workshops, smudging ceremonies. They're cooking First Nations inspired food like outdoor cooking. So for groups, if you want to have a glimpse of what's the history of the Mi'kmaq people of Nova Scotia, that's definitely something to look at. So yeah, I will stop there. I just give you a glimpse of what we have to offer across the country. I'm currently in our National Indigenous Tourism Conference, so we have over 300 Indigenous operators here in Calgary, gathering and learning about how we can build back better. I think, you know, our industry has been heavily impacted over the last 2 years. So now we're looking forward, and we're kind of gathering together to see how we can move forward all together to make Indigenous tourism thrive again. So I will pause there and answer a couple of questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Jason. That was amazing. Peggy's asking, what was the name of the lodge in New Brunswick again?
It's the Red Bank Lodge.
Great, thank you. Leela is asking, would you be able to send me the slides?
Dan, I think, is my presentation going to be shared with all the participants?
It's going to be sent to everyone in the form of a YouTube link.
Okay.
I suppose I could add an attachment as well to that message.
Well, if you can add the PDF attachment, that could be a way. If not, you see my email here, so you can send me an email and I'll be happy to forward you my presentation.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so tomorrow afternoon, I'll send everyone the YouTube link and also the slides as a PDF attachment. And oh, and you've pretty much provided an answer for Judy's question. Judy was asking, she says, I have many questions. Would I be able to reach out to you? Thank you. Yes, Judy, definitely feel free to send Jason an email. His email address is right up there on the screen there in the bottom middle.
Yeah,
And,
Judy, as I said, I'm currently at the National Indigenous Tourism Conference, but I'll be back home next week, and I'll be happy to set a Zoom call with you and dig deeper into our membership and what we're doing in terms of tourism.
Great. And Jennifer is asking, with COVID, are any of these tours restricting travelers? And which ones would or wouldn't be good for kids?
Yeah, obviously with COVID, many of our northern experience has been closed, and also more like the remote Indigenous communities. But what we're seeing so far, and fingers crossed, but things are picking up again, things are reopening, and we hope by the summer, if we don't have any new variants or whatsoever, but we hope that things will be all reopened by this summer.
That would be fantastic. And Stacy's asking, is Haida Gwaii open to tourism again?
I haven't put Haida Gwaii on purposes in my presentation. They were, well, prior to Omicron, they announced that they will reopen. Then they send us an email saying during Omicron that unfortunately they won't reopen this summer, and we're just waiting to hear from them what they're going to do for the summer, since Omicron seems to be kind of behind us. So yeah, if you look on our website on Destination Indigenous, on the interactive map, we're updating who's open and who's closed on a daily basis. So whenever they are telling us that they'll reopen, we'll announce it on our website.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's really good to know. And speaking of the website, Ruth is asking, Are there photos and videos on the trade website that can be used for marketing?
Of course, yeah. There's a media hub on the trade section of the corporate website, so you can see all our different pictures, all our video, and that's pretty straightforward. Like, you can download them. You will see the credit you have to put on it and everything, and you can download it in different format, whether it's for print or for web.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Jason. And Elena is asking for the slides as well. Please attach them to me. Yeah, no problem, Elena. When I send you the webinar recording tomorrow, I will add the slides as an attachment to the email. And there's, I believe that wraps it up. There's one more question in the chat box here with a word I might not be able to pronounce. So Peggy is asking, I know this is not necessarily part of the cultural tourism experience presentation, but do you have any information on the Mawatajik, I can't pronounce it, competition Powwow 2022 in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia?
As you may imagine, Peggy, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of powwow across the country. We've created a microsite dedicated to powwow. It's called Canadian Powwows, where we're updating the one that are sending us their informations. So I don't know specifically for the one in Dartmouth. And I know many of them has canceled their powwow over the last 2 years. So we're kind of in the midst of who's gonna have a powwow this summer, who will not. But as soon as we get information from members about their powwows, we're uploading them on CanadianPowwows.ca.
Excellent. Thanks, Jason. And I do believe that wraps up all the questions that have been submitted today. But I'd like to thank everyone that attended this webinar today. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your day. And from all of us here at Baxter Media, I'd like to thank Jason Picard-Binet for this fantastic experience today. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks. It's a pleasure.
Okay, take care, everyone, and we will be in touch tomorrow afternoon. Thanks again, Jason. Take care.
All right. Bye.